I have not much left to say after that. He's pretty well given the pitch. Anyways, a couple of things I picked up sitting here for the last. I'm glad to be here because I didn't, frankly, know that bucket list was kind of the theme for today. So what I'm going to do is make you young again. We're going to throw a few things in the bucket list that you can do starting tonight. I promise you today, I will show you and teach you how to build a legacy that will be probably the most important legacy you could ever leave your family. And you'll do that. You can do that when you walk out of here this afternoon. So there's a promise. Hold me to it. A couple of other things. David mentioned, David, of course, laughter, and David mentioned Zosky. Just a quick story. It reminded me, do you remember Stewart and the cricket? I was running radio in Northern Canada out of Whitehorse, and you're in the control room, you can listen to any program across the country. And Morningside was on in Ontario, I think, and I think it was about an hour into the show, leading up to a half-hour break, that Stewart started emptying his bag. The concept was Stuart McLean was given $1 to see what he could go buy for $1. And he spent his last 10 cents on a cricket, but the cricket was dead when Zosky pulled it out of the bag. They started laughing. We started laughing in Whitehorse, 4,200 miles away, and we couldn't hold it together. Every control room across the country in CBC and radio were on the floor laughing at what was going on, and we missed a lot. We were supposed to throw it over to local news, totally screwed that up. We're 45 seconds late, and it happened across the country. So laughter has its other dominoes that fall. Choir. Somebody mentioned singing. Here's a little pitch. May 27th in Tsawwassen, 3 choirs are singing, and one of the soloists is up here now. So May 27th in Tsawwassen. If some of you scared to go through the tunnel, go through it soon because it won't be there long. Maybe. And that's it. So let me get going because I'm gonna try and push a bunch of interesting information into your brain. And this is a Mac. This is, on the right, arrow. Did it happen? Ah. Everybody thinks legacy is about packaging up the stuff, the money and the goods, and moving it down to the kids. No. I had I went to tell you my journey into why I started looking at legacy. I was flying to Toronto one day, and I was going to be given $10,000 as some work from my work in the Make-A-Wish Foundation around the world, and then, of course, that would go back into Make-A-Wish Canada. I sat beside a guy who some of you know. He's a well-known guy in Vancouver, and we started talking. I told him that story. I just finished doing a book with my father on his war history, which we launched at the Museum of the Regiments in Calgary. Stunning experience. We went back to Europe and we had a whole lot of fun together. And we launched the book, and then we talked away. And this friend said, "That's quite a legacy you've got." And I remember saying, "Legacy? I mean, Kim and I can't have kids. We just found that out. We're not rich. I'm not going to endow a university. I'm not going to have a legacy." He says, "Oh, yeah, you are." So I started. And here's the first thing we had to come across. It's not just about money and throwing it around and packaging it up for the kids. There's a lot more than that. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how. I looked at legacy and sex, and as you can see, some of you in the back, I hope you can see this. Women are way more complicated than men. There's 72 switches that run a women and just an on and off for us guys. So I looked at how legacy ran and was involved in the brains of you guys, us guys. Women are more the story collectors and the story finders. Since time began, women have been involved in story. Men, for legacy, kind of more think stuff. Women's stories, men's stuff. So we discussed that in the book. I looked at legacy and religion. What religions deal with legacy? Oddly, in all the major religions, the word legacy doesn't show. But what does show, there's a real commonality in all religions. They all have a phrase about the golden rule, and the golden rule, as you'll see, is very legacy-oriented. So it was an interesting bit of research, and but I'm going to keep moving. You'll read about it in the book. Legacy and ego. A lot of people said to me, "You're writing a book on legacy. Isn't that just all about ego? You know, the big guys with the big money throw up a building and put their name on it." Well, this little Egyptian guy says, "I built these. I'm wonderful." Yes? Well, if there's ego involved in legacy, that's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't think Jimmy Pattison's ego made him put $75 million into St. Paul's. Jimmy, I talked to Maureen, his secretary, a couple of days ago, and I explained to her the concept of the book, and she said, that's why Jimmy's doing it. He just wants to see it. He doesn't want to wait till he's dead and find out from his eulogist what the hell he did. He wants to enjoy it now. So it's, anyways, one of our locals who does it. Now, then legacy and time. This little quote I liked. I'll read it for you people in the back who are squinting. But, oh, by the way, thanks for Owen for fixing this screen. Remember this morning we had the small screen? Now we've moved everything back. Many people die with their music still in them. Why? Too often because they're getting ready to live. Before they know it, time runs out. So I'm going to say to you, starting when I leave here in half an hour, your clock is starting to tick to create some of those really neat legacies we'll look at in a minute. So legacy and time. I did a little test. You can do this once you, when you have a moment. I put down, I started at 0. I guessed I'm going to go at 84. Why the hell I guessed that? I don't know. I'm going to put that up for you. I guess I'm now, I get a little emotional. I'm now 66 because my birthday was yesterday. But then so is the Queen's. And the Queen is 25 years younger than me. I heard from her yesterday. We had a nice chat. I guess I'm going to make it to 84. That means I've lived 78% of my life, 78.5% left. I've got 21% left to do stuff, to create stories, to create legacies that 200 years from now, my family is going to say, hey, that's great Uncle Rob. His blood flows in us. And I've only got a little bit more time to do it. So let's get started. Legacy and happiness. All the positive psychologists in the world agree about one thing, and that is you use your skills and talents and values. We're going to get into that in a minute. You're going to be the happiest among us. But we did this research in writing the book. When are you most unhappy? And they had 3 choices. When I've unresolved conflict, when I feel like I'm not using myself to create and move forward, or when I see the money's out. So who would vote for number 1? Number 2, I'm not using myself. Number 3, no more money. Well, you're kind of dead on, because here were the results. 56% when I don't want that weight of conflict on my back. I want to get rid of it. And we all have it, and some of us are better at clearing it off than others, but I don't want to have it on my back. The next highest one, of course, when I'm not using my skills and talents to create, to build, to move forward. All of us inside us have some great, unique things, and if we're not using them, you've all probably felt it before. Geez, I'm just not getting it done. I just don't feel like I'm being used. I just don't feel like I'm taking advantage of all that's me. And then 12%, obviously, people just think, it's money. We'll get some more if we need it. Probably a pretty good thought. Most folks are usually about as happy as they make up their minds to be, says old Abe. Legacy and storytelling. Now I'm going to get into, because I'm going to build up to what legacy is, and then we're going to get to work. This little guy, Man in the Mountain, says, ooh, what a story. The story, just I quickly tell in the book, is the story of the raven. The raven, of course, along the Pacific Northwest. The raven is the trickster, and he's the one who snuck in and stole the ball of light and flew up to the sky and created the sun and the moon and the stars. This story, the reason I put this in the book is that this story goes on, it's been around long before you and I were here, long before Captain Cook was here. This story has lasted because it's a meaningful story and it has some resonance. We're going to do the same with yours. So story is real important in legacy. They were found, the first really stories of human beings were found in the Lascaux caves in France about, they were apparently painted on the walls of this cave around 4,000 years ago. This one I don't know if you see in the back, but there's a great big mad mastodon with a little tiny guy down below saying, oh, I'm in big trouble, but good story if I get home. So stories have been in our life. We are storytellers and collectors. We're going to start that pretty soon. A real key quote, love Sue Monk Kidd's book, Sacred Life of Bees. Stories have to be told or they die. And when we die, nobody knows who the heck we were. So I want you to start creating some stories so that in 200 or 300, 400 years, your descendants go, that was great-great-great-great-great-great-grandma Anna. Gonna get to work. Okay, let's get to what the heck is the definition of legacy. If you look in any dictionary, it'll say it's part of your will. It's the money you send down to future generations. It's a bequest. It's all about money and death. I want to get rid of that, and here's the definition I've been working with. It's something that connects me to others, really critical, that connects you to others now. 50 years before you give your final smile, you're going to build legacies that connect you to others. It enhances all your lives and those who are around you, and it affects others when you're gone. So create it, basically, I'm saying create it now. Don't just leave a legacy, live it. Create it now, enjoy it now with a whole bunch of other people, and then when you finally breathe your last dribbling smile, as we all well do, you can say, I'm leaving some pretty good stuff behind that's going to continue to affect lives. So let's get going. 3 ways, keeping it simple, 3 ways to produce your legacies is tell your story, then gather the stories of those whose stories you don't want to be lost. And then the biggest category of legacy creation is creating new stories. So all about story, but there's also we're all going to create stuff that these stories are about. Here, you probably recognize the similarity, are my great-grandparents. Came from Ireland in 1872-ish, 3, given some land in northern Ontario, a bog, a mosquito-laden, rainy, muddy, mucky place that they've got to go there and make a living. Well, something was going right. They had 14 kids. 5 of them died here at the cabin. But here's the deal. I know nothing about them. I know zip about them. And I would love to have an idea of their story. What it was like coming over from they were from Cork, the south shore of Cork. What was it like to come across the ocean? What was it like to build a home and build a family? Wouldn't it be, I mean, how many would you love to have your great-grandparents' story? We don't have it because they don't have, first, the focus. They were probably illiterate anyway, and they didn't have the technology. We cross all those in an instant now in our lives. We've got all of that. So I wanted their lives, I wanted their story, so I'm saying to you as we build this now, think about your family 200 or 300 years from now, reading about your life, listening to you, watching your face. That's going to be rich for them, and that will be one of your legacies. The next generation will value not what we owned, but the evidence of who we were and the tales of how we loved. There's a big company in the U.S. called Allianz. They probably don't say it like that down there. Allianz, A-L-L-I-A-N-Z. They've done 2 stories, one in 2000, one in 2014, and they asked us boomers what we wanted from our parents. And it came, their choice was, the resources, the funds, the real estate. Number 1 was the stories. Just tell us the stories of your lives. The money, go spend it. Go buy a very expensive cruise. Just go spend it, but give us a story. So stories have been very important. And if we don't tell those stories, nobody will know who the heck we were. So let's get going. We're getting to work now. And I know this is probably tough for you people in Y class to see, but here's about 150 values. In the book, there's about 500. To start to tell your story, you pick your values. So if you can see, I'm going to be quite personal. I'm going to show you mine. Though they're in red, but they kind of don't show, and I'll read them to you. I picked adventure, connection, creativity, curiosity, health, integrity, making a difference, joy, opportunity, wisdom. So I picked 10 values, and they were in a priority. Sometimes health, I've been through a little bit of the big C, and it's gone. So health was number 1 once. It's down to number 6. I stay healthy. But I had 10 there, then I boiled those 10 values down to 5. And here were the 5. Integrity, connection, wisdom, creativity, joy. The key thing here, and this is what you'll do tonight, now you can start to write your legacy letter. Boil those values down to 1 or 2 or 5, whatever you like. And now I'm going to start to write my legacy letter. And how do I do it? I'm going to do it for each one of these 5 values. Here's what I do with each one of them. I would write, why is this value important to me? And how did it show up in my life? Tell me a story about how it showed up in my life. Let's do me, and your brain will be twisting a little bit as to let's do you. So remember my 5? Why is it important? How did it show up in my life? First of all, integrity. Integrity, I know why I want it, and all of us would feel the same. I didn't want to feel like I'm being trailed by a pack of lies, and I wasn't being true to me and true to those who I talk to. So integrity feels good, right? Like my favorite quotester, Mark Twain, tell the truth, then you don't have to remember anything. So integrity was important to me. Here is my legacy about, here's a story about integrity. Rob, what the hell are you doing here? That's Mount Waddington. Anybody climbed it? Northwestern BC, 14,300, a technical climb. We were climbing that where I was going to leave tomorrow, and I got a phone call from a good friend, Ken. Kathy, who had breast cancer for the last 6 months, died that morning. So we get through that. He says, can you be at let's do the funeral Thursday. Can you be there? And I said, Ken, I'm leaving to go climb Waddington tomorrow. Ooh. Here at Ken, they're a Catholic family. I said, what if I just get a crucifix and take it up to the top of the mountain? He liked that idea. So we agreed to that. I went and found one. I had it blessed on the way up to it. I found a priest in Squamish, and we climbed the mountain. So it's a technical climb, and I was in pretty good shape, but we're about 400 feet from the top, and we had to jump across a crevice. And so we're going up, and there's about a 3-foot crevice there, and it's just blue. It's infinity down there. And then there's a wall here. So what you had to do with your crampons and your ice axe, you had to jump across this 3 feet and snap yourself onto this ice wall like Spider-Man, and then go up. It made me a little queasy. We're roped in. If I jumped on that wall and broke and I fell down 20 feet, the ropes would hold me and they'd haul me up and I'd swear and I'd say, yeah. Anyways, I thought, I don't want to do it. I was absolutely broken. I was physically spent, and this kind of scared me. It's not rational, but it did. And I thought, I'm just going to have to give this crucifix to somebody else and let them take it up. But then it hit me. Don't do that, because when they come down, you're going to feel like a schmuck. You promised Ken and Kathy you do it yourself. So I jumped like Spider-Man, boom, got to the top, put the crucifix on the top, cried like a baby, came down. And when I started to research legacy, it said to me, yeah, that is important to me. Integrity is important to me. So that's the story of the first one. I'm moving fairly quickly, but just, what have I got here? Oh, that's not it. That's one of the ones we had to cover. It's pretty exciting. This is the guide, actually. We're not going to do that. And if you've done any climbing, you see he's got a rope anchored in to the ice about 3 feet. He jumps across. If he misses, he'll fall down. The rope will hold him. He'll haul himself up, and he'll do it again. But he made it that way. I climbed up that high to get this picture. He made it. He climbed up around 20 feet, anchored it in, and then what you do to get across, you clip into the rope, and you just fall down into infinity. You done it? You want to do it? No? No? But it's pretty cool once you get it done. So that's integrity. So I'm going to run through these quickly in my legacy letter. My legacy letter would say, here are 5 values. Integrity is important for me for this reason. Here's a story that said, yeah, I operated with integrity. I made this promise to Kathy and Ken, and I got the crucifix up there. The other ones I'll run through quickly. Connection. Kim and I are lucky to travel a fair bit. I know it's so easy to connect to people, even if they don't have the same language. It's so easy to walk up with them with a smile and a couple of cameras and say, can I do some shooting of you and that knitting you're doing? And they just start laughing amongst themselves, and I start clapping, and pretty soon we're there for lunch because they want to meet Kim and I and have some fun. So it's one of my values is connection. Real easy to do. Wisdom, I was taught this I went to a Catholic boys' school. The only thing I got out of that thing was old Monsignor Smith talking to us about storytelling, oddly, and just go slow. And also, if you're on the other side, ask smart questions that allow the person to go anywhere they want. You'll learn that in the book, too. Creativity. I've been in the creative world, journalism and creativity. One thing about creativity is turn around. In photography, if I took this picture, bang, there's 150 people attending the bucket list. Turn around 150. There's always a picture that way too. I can think of one, the sun, we were in Mexico, beautiful sunset, ka-ching, turn around 180. I should have brought this for you. There's my darling wife sitting with 6 Mexican cops, bathed in the golden light of the sun right there. So there's one picture, there's another. Anyways, creativity turnarounds. And in the creative world, when you have a meeting about how you're going to build a show or something, somebody will come up with a dumb idea, and people say, that's a dumb idea. I say, no, put it down too. The day later, we'll come back, and that dumb idea will be the strategy we'll use to move forward. And the other one is joy. Yeah, I can tell that story. There's two kids. One of the first wishes we did was a little guy who wanted to see the acapella, the nylons. Remember the nylons? They are at the Orpheum. They're from northern BC. They're a little scared. They said, can you come with us? And we didn't want to, our strategy during wishes then was don't be there as do-gooders. It's a family wish, but they wanted us to come. So Kim and I sat behind them. At the break, we went into the green room, and this little guy, bald as a billiard ball because of all the treatment, and his twin brother with long, flowing blonde hair, sat with the nylons and sang for 20 minutes or so during the break. That was really cool. Then the second half, at the end, we went outside and I had a limo lined up, you might know, in Granville, or there's the back door of the Orpheum on Granville. The limo was lined up there, and everybody from the Orpheum came running out saying, hey, we're going to see the nylons again. We're going to get real close to them. Out walks this family of 4, get in the car, drive away. Everybody's going, who the hell was that? Nylons they never saw. I went back to my car, cried like a baby again, because it was so easy to create joy in that family's life. They've got a little guy that died 2 months later, but they had this story and the most fun they've ever had in Vancouver, coming down from northern BC. So it said to me that joy is important to me, and it's easy to create. That's probably why I kept on with them. So, I don't know if you can see this, but let's just spend 30 seconds and just take a look at that and pick one value for you. If you can't see it in the back, come on up here. But just pick one value. You may know one will jump to you right away, because you're going to go to work with this one value. You can make up your own. Yep, it's not there. Yep. But just pick one. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to do a little bit of work. So you've got a value. Now, in your legacy letter, you would do as I did. Why is this value important to me? And how does this value show up? You're not going to do that now. You can do it after reading the book if you like, but that's what you would do. Just like I did with integrity and the story of the mountain, or the story of Make-A-Wish, or the story of traveling. And if you've got one value and do this within the next little while, just put it on a piece of paper and stick it in a drawer. I hope your brain, and my experience is your brain will start to turn a little bit and say, I want to do another value. And the reason you're doing this is to build your legacy letter so that when you do finally say sayonara, years from now, your family and your extended family and the family years from now will learn a lot about you. My experience in doing a legacy letter is when I finished it and put it in the drawer, I felt so relieved, and probably because I examined myself a little bit, but it's there on paper now, and my wife and family and nieces and nephews and all the rest of it will now learn a lot more about Uncle Rob that they didn't know, but it felt really good writing it. So let me just move forward. Oh, yeah, by the way, so if you can do your values. There's no rules here. You can also add into your legacy letter your beliefs, your talents, your skills, what you'll miss, the times you screwed up, the times you wanted to give love but didn't do it, the apologies you want to make. Get your values done, and then add anything you want. And I can promise you, when you put it in the drawer, you'll feel relieved because it's done. And you can go in and change it anytime you want. So we're moving quickly. That was tell your story. And again, my counsel is do one value. Write it today. Get it down, and let it be the little seed that kind of needles you a bit in the next couple of months to say, do another value, do me. So let's tell your story. Gather their stories. Is there a person in your life whose story you don't want to disappear? How many of us have gone to a funeral and said, God, he had some great stories, but we never collected them? And they're gone. Collect them now. I'm not going to teach you 40 years of journalism, but it's not that hard to collect them. And this is old Garrison Keillor, who got Stuart McLean going, by the way. My mother told me the other day, there's a lot she'd like to know, but there's nobody left to ask. The door to the past, slammed, closed. Don't let that happen with the people in your life whose story you want to collect. It is an example. On the left, my father getting the military cross from Monty. There's Dad and I, and we traveled back to the beaches in, the D-Day plus 50th anniversary. Dad was not a storyteller. Make a long story short, we ended up writing this book and launching it at the Museum of the Regiments, and this was a huge, huge deal in Dad's life and in his 5 children. And when he saw all the people at the Museum of the Regiments, he was blown away. He said, why would anybody care? Well, they did. So I'm not suggesting you do a book with somebody. I'm lucky I have a sister who's a publisher. I worked with Dad on the content, and she took it away and published the book. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be an 8.5, 11 full scap. Just the words and the stories that you collect. Here's some excuses for not collecting the stories. I don't have time. We have the time. If you want to make sure you collect the story, find an hour. Here's a quick story. We were sailing around. What's the horn around South Africa? South America? We were close to the little black and white animals that one of you wanted to go visit. And I was chatting away with a guy. We're leaning over there, and there's ice and stuff, and we're chatting away. And I started talking to him, and he had a fabulous story about being a merchant marine. He's an American, a merchant marine in World War II. And I said I was starting to get into this book, and I said, your children knowing this stuff? He said, no, they won't care. They won't care. I said, oh. So I went down, got a little recording device, which I always carry. We started chatting again, just put it here. An hour later, I pulled out the SD card. I gave it to him and said, give this to your kids, have them listen to it, and if they want to call me, do it, but have them get their asses in the saddle and get the rest of your story. It worked like a charm. I heard from him. He's done a ton of work with his story and his kids, but that just took an hour. It was just an hour of chatting. It's not a big deal. You can do it. You've got time. No skills. You don't have to have the skills of a journalist to do this. There's only one question you need to gather the story of somebody whose story you don't want to disappear. Some people will say, I don't have a story. Everybody's got stories. They may not be hugely dramatic, but they've got stories about life and their growth and the people around them. They're there. I don't have the technology. I'm not a techie. I mean, you don't have to record it on audio. You can do it in video or anything if you want to. But right now, instead of my great-grandparents didn't have a little audio recorder like this. You can buy them for $35 down Best Buy. Put it and talk to that person. Just collect their story. Get it on audio. Then you can transcribe it. By the way, once you record it on audio, you put it into your computer with something like drag and these things, and it turns it into text right away. Boom. You don't have to type it out. It's text right away. So technology is helping us collect these stories. And finally, no one will care. That's my dad had his. He was, if you know Calgary, he lived at the Belcher for about the last year of his life. He had the suite. It was pretty cool. But he had his book read to him by his caretaker there every day. And then he saw the reaction of those who got the book, and when he signed the book for them, he was pretty pumped. No one will care. Everybody cared. There was never an uninteresting life. Such a thing is impossible. There's comedy and tragedy in everyone's life, said my favorite quotester. And by the way, just to see how the demand is, when SFU called me last year and said, can you turn the book into a storytelling course? So we've done this now. I've done this twice, and we're starting again on May 4th. It sold out. It opened up on the 19th, a few days ago, and sold out like that. So there's a whole bunch of need to learn how to create stories. And so what I get a room of 20, just like you, and we start people from what is the story, how do you structure a story, how do you write it, then how do we produce it? And they walk out 10 weeks later with a 5 to 7 minute video in the cloud about their story. Hugely emotional. We bring everybody together, their family and friends, and they show their story. And this is beyond the realm. They never thought they'd ever see their story up on lights. And it's a whole bunch of fun to teach and very emotional but people love learning how to tell. There's one guy, he was a chiropractor. Everybody was just asked to do one story. At the end of 10 weeks, he had 6 done because he learned the technology. Technology was very simple, and he had 6 stories done, and he was pumped. He said he wants to leave 100 stories when he finally goes for all his descendants to learn and see. So I moved through fairly quickly. Tell your story, your legacy letter, about your values to start. Gather their stories. Don't let the stories disappear of somebody whose story you don't want to go away. And then let's do the big one, creating stories. Here's how you do it. You've got significant strengths and you've got an imagination. That's all you need to build a legacy. It could be 75 million at St. Paul's, or it could be a little corner garden, which I'll describe. But let's do that. These are a little small, I think, for the back people. But I want you to, if you could, you've got one value now, right? I hope you've written it down, just the one value that we did a few moments ago. Now pick one talent, and the talent is really something you play with. It's how you have fun. So you can look at these, or just close your eyes and say, what do I have fun with? Gardening. What do I have fun with? Race car driving. What do I have fun with? Whatever you have fun with, write that down. So you have one value and one talent. That make sense? I can read these out if that would be beneficial for you, you Y-class people. You can see it? Okay, you've now got one value and one talent. Talent is golf, gardening, knitting, whatever you like. Just one talent is all we're looking for. Here's what I put down as mine. Gardening, writing, and an outdoor enthusiast. So those are my natural kind of talents. Let's move on to something else. The skills you work with. So you've got right now on your paper, you've got a value, you've got a talent, something you have fun with. Here's the skills, and that's what you work with. So in your professional or working life, what were you good at? Were you an opera singer? Were you a welder? Were you an interpreter? Were you a jeweler? So what I want you on your paper then is one value, one talent, one skill. Most of you should find this pretty easy. What the heck did you do for a living? That would be your skill. We're moving, so I hope right now, if some of you got a value, a talent, and a skill, you're ready to create some legacies now. Here's what I put down as mine: media production, marketing, public speaking. Okay, now I'm going to build a legacy or two. I'm going to pick one talent or skill that I've got and do something with it. Create a legacy that connects me to people, enhances their lives, and I know it'll enhance the lives of those that follow me 200 years from now. That's our definition of legacy, remember? Connect me, enhance lives, move it forward. So I'm going to pick a talent or a skill and see what the heck I can do with it. My talent is gardening. What the heck can I do with a gardening to develop a legacy that connects me to people and enhances everybody's lives, makes things, and it will be cool. Moving down the line, here's my legacy. Isn't that something? Isn't that ugly? That's a little corner in Tawasin, where we're from. You drive down this street, you have to turn right because we're on the cliff. And there at the corner, to dissuade those who feel like they want to drive through the forest and over the cliff, is a big yellow concrete abutment. I'm saying take it away and let's cull the herd, but whatever. It's not the... In the spring, it's ugly as hell. It's got weeds growing up about it, and so I called the city and said, you guys have any dough to just put some stuff here? No, sorry, Rob, no money. No money. So I said, well, what can I do? So I just went home, grabbed a bunch of tools, came back here, and started digging and cleaning the place up. In 5 minutes, there were 15, 16 people there from this end of the block who I'd never met because we're at the other end, on the cliffside. Everybody went and ran home, got some stuff, and we had the place cleaned up in half an hour. First point of legacy, connections. We met people. We're having people over tonight from the block that we met because of this. So I connected to people. Secondly, enhance everybody's lives. So once we cleaned it up, what did we do? I said to them, okay, guys, 10 or 15, 20 bucks each. Everybody threw me some money. I think I had about 180 bucks. I went down to the local gardening store and said, this is what I got to spend. And I showed them the picture of the corner, said, what the heck can I do there? Well, we found a whole bunch of flowers, and then for the last 4 years, it's a garden at the corner. And it's a garden at the corner only because people love the idea of connecting with one another and making the thing look a heck of a lot better. It's been going on 4 years. We're now looking at it, of course. If it's not going to pour rain tomorrow, we're going to probably get active at it and get everything planted. So there's a simple, real simple little garden. And I did that because this quote by Mark again, don't part with your illusions when they're gone. You may still exist, but you've ceased to live. I could have driven by that corner and saying, you know, somebody should clean that up. All it took was driving there and putting a shovel in the ground, and I got 16 worker bees saying, yeah, that's cool. Why is it a legacy? It connects us to those people. It enhances our lives. When we turn onto the street, we're pretty, say, that's pretty, did you hear the story about the legacy corner? And then, and I said to all of them, said, if I get hit by a herd of water buffalo, will you guys continue? Continue this? Oh yeah, we'll continue. So, is it a legacy? Yeah. Teeny one? Yeah. Fun one? Yeah. Here's a different one. I'm adding a value. Hope you can see that. I'm adding a value and a skill or a talent and creating a legacy. This is my darling wife, Kim, who you'll meet in a minute. And I were at one of the Watts in Cambodia. This is the women's Watt. Is that the women's? They call it the women's Watt. We were driving around Cambodia, and I said, what do they do for water here? And the driver said, well, it's all surface water, and there's a whole bunch of disease, and they're unhealthy, and why the hell don't they drill wells? And he said he talked about one guy who is now starting to drill wells. Well, where is he? I don't know. You might be able to find him. So one of my values is opportunity, creating opportunity for us and other people. It's way more fun to do it with somebody. That's the value. Our talent or skill is research. So we went back, went into a couple of hotels, found a hotel. They knew the guy. He said he comes around here. He goes to this restaurant about every 2 or 3 days for dinner. So we went back there. He showed up that night. We meet him. He is drilling wells so that people will have fresh water. And if you've been to Cambodia around the Angkor Wat area, they're kind of clusters of five families. They're half a mile away from each other. So he picked us up the next morning and we went for a drive. The value, the legacy we wanted to create, of course, was healthy people with a better future. So he said, how much, we said to him, how much do you need to drill a well? I think it was about 150 US. Gave him the money, and then about 3 weeks after we got home from Cambodia, never asked him to do this, he's got a picture of the people and the new well. And he's a bit of a marketer because he put this up. Angkor Well Project, Kim and Rob Lucy, to the people of Cambodia. We're Kim and Rob from Vancouver, and his name is Paul, P-H-A-L. So I sent this to some of my email list, and I think he got 12 more wells drilled because of people in our circle sending him the 150 bucks. Because the lives of every one of those families around that well changed. They started making, they were making candy, remember? Because they had water? Pineapple, what kind of candy? Some kind of candy. Palm sugar candy. And they were selling it to the tourists. They couldn't do that because they never had good water. And now they've got good water, and now they're creating industry. So that's having a value and a talent and a skill. Here's one that you know about. Just let's see if you can guess what the legacy is. My legacy is giving back. I'm a pretty good storyteller as a talent. What do you think the legacy was? You've seen it. No, not the book. The book is an aid to help you do it. Yes. Well, I'm okay. It's Make-A-Wish. When we started here, we had no friggin' idea what would happen. We make a pitch to the oncologists and the doctors up at the Children's Hospital saying Billy's wish is to go to Disneyland, but they were very, very careful about a bunch of do-gooders coming in and doing something with their kids because they know what these kids have been through. Anyways, the first few wishes done, and now we're in 40 countries, and who'd have thought? This is not my legacy. I'll take some. I enjoy it, but there's a fabulous people around the world who've been involved in building this organization. But those of us who did the first wishes never had an idea what was going to happen, but it did. The first wish was done in Phoenix. It was a show on 60 Minutes on a Sunday. I got a call from a friend, turn on 60 Minutes. I turned it on, saw the show. Because I knew some people at CBS, I just called them. They got me down to the two women in a basement in Phoenix. I said, hi, how are you? Hey, do you guys mind if we use the phrase Make-A-Wish in Canada? No, go ahead. There were no copyright lawyers on the call. And so we just began. And so the first wish was Chris, this guy who wanted to be a little cop, and our first wish was a young girl who wanted to go visit her grandmother in Germany, then the one with the nylons, then Gretzky, and then a whole bunch of Disneyland, of course. But it was fun telling the story, and people say, oh, that's wonderful, you did this. I didn't do it because I wanted to be a hero. I did it because of the people that gather to do this stuff are the best people in the organization. Professional, caring, smart. It's cool to hang out with those kinds of people. Okay, let me just give you an idea. I threw this at some friends. I said, okay, give me a value. Tell me a value and a skill or a talent and what you could do. So some of these are real and some of these are being done. And instantly they came back. Bruce is a friend of mine. His value is growth. He's a soccer coach. His legacy will be to bring in 2 World Cup coaches to teach the local teams. He's almost there. He hasn't got it done yet. Alan, who some of you may know, he's the former Chief Justice in Alberta, a good friend. His value is caring. His talent or skill is organizing. And he now gathers street people and teaches them how to collect bottles and then what to do with the bottles and what to do with the cash. And he's got a whole bunch of people helping him. They're cleaning neighborhoods. He's helping people who just don't have any money in their pocket to put some money in their pocket. Anna, I know 2 Annas. One's here, one's in Alberta. This is Alberta one. Sure, her value is freedom. Her talent is educating, and she does money management for low-income single moms. She's doing that now. Chris is my wife's cousin. I'm trying to think of cousin. His value is creativity. His talent is designing, and he does occasionally right-brain design sessions for community planners and the public to show the public how you got to think very laterally when you're planning our cities. And the public goes, oh, I didn't know it was so hard. I didn't know. Why don't you just do it? Most people public say, why don't you just do it right? Well, get involved in the process, and then you'll really see. So that's been pretty cool. Peter's into conservation. There's a fellow I met. He's out of Winnipeg, I think. He's a handyman, and he fixes all issues for 10 local nonprofits. If a local nonprofit has an issue about handyman sort of stuff, he goes in and does it, allowing the charity to spend their money on what they want to spend their money on. He does it all for free, of course. Chuck is a guy I play golf with. He's a former head RCMP guy for drugs. Some of you may know him. He lives in, his value is contribution. He's a team builder. He wanted to build a substance abuse prevention strategy. It grew up and it became a building in Tawasin where substance abuse classes are held, and it's a really quite a remarkable story. George is a producer of And As It Happens. He's retired now. His value is enthusiasm. He's a cook, and he's created a recipe and tip book for seniors' home volunteers to make sure the seniors get really good, creative, good meals. And finally, Leah, who works with the Prostate Cancer Foundation, her value is compassion. Her talent as organizer. And remember, she had to think about, what do I do with compassion and an organizer? And I said, no, what are you passionate about? Well, there's no football league down here. Are you a pretty good organizer? Yeah. She's now created a whole football program down in South Surrey where there was none. So all they got was a value and a talent and a skill and said, what the heck can I do? Let your imagination go crazy and you'll find out. Here's what I did with mine. I'm working on these, not done yet, but I want to give you an example. My value is adventure. My talent or skill is writing. I'd love to, and I've talked to a few people in Toronto about setting up a scholarship for North Pole global warming environmental reporting. Somebody up there who gets up there 3 or 4 times a year and sees what's going on. Another value, wisdom, outdoor enthusiast. I haven't done this yet, but once a month evening, kids walk in the woods to learn what's out there. You probably had that experience. You walk through the forest and say, yeah, you can eat that, you can eat that. Don't eat that. But you pick all this stuff and you have a salad you've never had before. And this is kind of similar. My value is health. Talent or skill is gardening. And then the legacy would be monthly salad Tuesdays in the neighborhood, where everybody brings a different kind of a salad and healthy meal and describes why they're having it. And mostly to teach the kids. So the kids have better food and better knowledge of what food is and how to take care of themselves. So that was, all of these were just basically come up with a value and a talent and dream. Dream, what could you do? You don't have to spend any money. You could. Legacy, blue skying. So here's where I had you write down a value, a skill, a talent. There's your value, you've got it written down. There's your talent or skill. I'm going to say to you, you can have all the money or people in the world to help you get this done. Your resources are anything you want. Why don't you take a second and build dream of a legacy? I'll ask a couple of you to tell me what you've done. Go. I say, imagine the story of your next legacy. Somebody got one? Yep. Your value is? Compassion. Your talent or skill? Cooking. And the legacy is? So you've already started this, but you see how it fits into this formula. Oh, way to go. Anybody else? Don't be shy. There's no rules. Yes. Value is? Nurturing. Talent or skill? Storytelling and sharing. Okay, so storytelling, writing and telling stories. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what value? What was the legacy then? That's I'm passing that on. Right. So you probably didn't hear all that, but she's collecting a whole lot of family information from Jamaican slaves to, what'd you say? Highland. Yep. Some Highlanders in Scotland, and then building these stories to make sure they go down. Yep. Yep. The great stories of their strength and the passion and the hardships they had and how it's been passed on to you. So not to get too, but so you're the value was again nurturing. Okay. Okay, nurturing. The talent or skill is writing and telling and pulling all these stories together, and then finally pushing these stories out so the family really knows where the heck they came from. You don't look Jamaican for some reason. 5%. Okay. Did you learn that from genealogy, whatever that one is? Okay. That's blue skying. So I forget where I'm going here. Oh yeah, we've done all three of them now. So tell your story as a legacy letter, which I would counsel you today just to pick one value and write the story of that value in your life. Gather the stories is figure out whose story you don't want to disappear, and create new stories is the biggest category, the one we've just done and spent very little time on it, but it's assessing your values and your skills and what the heck can I do with that now? Remember mine with the garden? I'm just a gardener, but I could put a value on that and joy. I would say joy, because then there's a whole bunch of joy in people who turn the corner and see the nice garden. So joy is my value, gardening is my talent, boom, legacy is a really pretty looking corner for the end of time, as long as some neighbors stick around. Here's what we do, just to give you an idea in our business anyway. I'm not in journalism anymore, but I've been in production for years. We help people with, say, on the tell your story, the legacy letter, we help people consult. We consult with them and then record and transcribe and build their legacy letters for them. Some people may find that way more comfortable than trying to do it on their own. So we act as a catalyst to bring those stories out. To gather the story, so say you've got grandma who's 92, still cogent, really a good storyteller, and you want her stories told. So we consult and we do audio and video interviews and then produce all those things in audio and video or print. And it's I tell you, as somebody doing it and collecting these stories, you meet some fascinating people and some great stories that they haven't told yet. And it's a real relief to get them told, just like the SFU people I talked about. And the final one we do is a lot of this, I say we consult on creating legacy opportunities. A lot of people think, well, my legacy will be when I write a check to this charity. Yeah, that's easy to do, but I can tell you we can make this way more fun for you and your family by not just writing a check, but by going in and talking to the charity and saying, what do you need done? Every charity will love you walking in the door and saying, I've got this money, I want to do something. What can I do, number one? Or I've got this money, I'd like to do this with your charity. And they just have to figure out if it'll fit. And then you own that, and then that's your legacy. Instead of just sending a check into general revenue, talk to them and find out what they really need, and it's just so much more fulfilling, I think. And I found that it's fulfilling to go in and own something and make sure they really got it done. So that's what we do for as a service in our company. So, yes, the book. Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to get to that. Stay there. Here's the first book I wrote. And it's the book. I'm going to get. This is a little bit of fun on what marketing is in the book industry in North America. I called the book "Legacies Aren't Just for Dead People." Maybe a little bit too dry with my sense of humor, but we published this book, and it got great reviews from ARP and CARP and Rotary International, and hundreds of people. I just was interviewed by Jack Canfield. Jack for Chicken Soup for the Soul. He loves the book, so we're putting that up on the website. But even though with great reviews, it was not flying off the shelf. And so we worked with some people in Philadelphia, and here's what they told me. Rob, books with dead in the title don't fly. So, oh God, now we've got to change the book. So we changed the book. It is the same book, but it's just now marketing, and I'm telling you the inside story here. Redesigned it to be called How Will You Be Remembered? A Guide for Creating and Enjoying Your Legacies Now. It's the same stuff, way more than, of course, we've done here, and a fun read, too, with lots of stories. But that's marketing. So we're just getting that out now, and I'm just waiting for something from Canfield. Then we're going to be hitting the media. And it's a tough business to get your book. And you don't do this to make a living. You do it because you believe in it. I love just the reaction I get from the SFU students when they built a story. That feeds me enough to know that I'm on the right track. Oh, where do you get the book? They used to sell, well, they sell on Amazon for $26. But today, and today only, ding, ding. The old one is, the blue one is the old one, out of print now. Well, we've got some copies, but we're not going to be printing anymore. We're just going to do it. But you can have it for $15 if you want the one that's in the stores and online. Instead of $26, that's $20. And selling that book would be, there's Vanna there. See that pretty little blonde girl? My wife of 29 years, Kim. And wait, there's more. The books are there, and I'll happily sign them for you. But Kim is also the director of sales for Viking River. So your choice is to buy a $20 book or a $15,000 cruise. It's all happening in the adjacent room. Yeah, nice thought. That's about it. Then that's a real quick run through but I wanted to leave you with some enthusiasm and a smile on your face that this isn't real tough to do. And I'm going to beat you over the head to say, start your legacy letter with one value. Just tell a story, whether it's mountain climbing or building your ant farm. I don't care. Just get it started. You'll love having it done and in the drawer. And you'll especially love it when the reaction on your family's faces. You could show that to them now, not a big deal. Or you can wait and let them read it later. Your choice. So I think I'm long, aren't I? Oh, another bottle of scotch? That's so cool. Thank you very much for listening and partaking. And the books are over in that room.